Hey, hi, hello. Welcome to Diana Emerson. Today we're listening to Murder Comes to Town, and this is Tragedy Comes in Pairs.
Surrounded by the extinct volcanoes of the Rio Grande, Socorro, New Mexico is defined as much by its beautiful surroundings as it is by the people living there. Which is why on Easter weekend 2001, the town's identity is called into question. Longtime resident Joyce Fisher's 24-year-old daughter, Crystal, is missing.
She was supposed to go to our house on Friday morning, help my son with the air conditioner. She didn't show up. Crystal! We had plans to go on a picnic for Easter Sunday. And I went over there. Her car wasn't there. And I knocked on the door and there was no answer and it was locked.
Sorry to bother you. I haven't heard from Crystal and I'm a little worried. Have you seen her?
No.
Her car's not there and we were supposed to meet up today.
Consumed by her worry, Joyce asks Crystal's neighbor Ted Soto to help her jimmy open her daughter's front door.
He just told me, stand back. I've smelled the smell before. I said, what are you talking about? And he goes, it smells like somebody's dead. I could see part of the body. I could see the legs. I just remember I was upset because I couldn't tell for sure that it was Crystal.
Within minutes, Assistant Chief Angel Garcia and a team of officers from the Socorro Police Department pull up to the scene.
When I arrived at Soto, immediately he came up to me and told me he believed that he had found a body. Several things run through your head, not knowing exactly what it is, saying that they found a body, not knowing if it was Crystal or not.
Stay outside. We'll take it from here.
It was a horrific scene. I remember it like it was yesterday. Something that stuck with me through my whole career.
The way she was laying on the ground with her pants down and one sock on, one sock off. She was essentially naked from the waist down.
It was sexual assault, plain and simple. I suspected it was Crystal, just because I knew what she looked like. I knew who she was.
Got a broken nail over here, so she may have tried to fire for her attacker. She looked like she'd been dead for over 24 hours, maybe 48 hours. You could tell something had gone on. We were looking around, there was some signs that there was some type of party, there's some beer and stuff around. And we were taking notes and noticing certain things, like what stood out in your mind when you walk into a scene. There was no TV, but there was a remote. So was there a theft that happened here? Hey, check this out. The picture of her and her child being turned over. It was like if somebody did something guilty, did they feel some type of guilt or remorse when they were done? They took that picture, they put it down.
It's a discovery that makes investigators think this homicide may not be a random robbery gone wrong. This may, in fact, be far more personal.
We went out and asked Mom about the tattoo on her body.
She had a cross on her leg.
Joyce confirms that it is indeed Crystal Houston, dead inside her home.
We can't go through this again.
For this family, this is the second time an unspeakable tragedy has struck. It was just 14 months earlier when Crystal's older sister Stephanie was killed.
It's hard reliving it again. And I can see it all over. I just wasn't sure about anything except the hurt, the pain.
The scene didn't get at me until I realized who it was and whose sister it was. Then it started to boil up and start to hit you a little bit more. Oh, that's Stephanie's little sister.
Stephanie used to run a convenience store here in Socorro. They used to be open late night. She would invite us in and just chat.
When you talk about Stephanie, I get kind of watered up because we knew Stephanie. We were pretty close and stuff. So, and then you think of, I have 2 daughters, and when you start talking about daughters dying suddenly and stuff, it really gets emotional.
She was involved in a relationship. I heard that she was having an argument, and as the individual was driving off, she was ran over by the trailer.
Despite the medical examiner ruling Stephanie's death a homicide, the boyfriend was acquitted in court, and her death was deemed an accident. Stephanie's controversial death was a shock to the community, but of all those who mourned her passing, Crystal seemed to take it the hardest.
Crystal was a very timid person, and when her sister died, she just lost it. She couldn't pull herself back together.
At the time, Crystal was living 2 hours away in Las Cruces and decided to return to Socorro to be near her parents. But getting back on track had its challenges.
Life just wasn't the same for any of us. And then Crystal was going through the problems with her daughter.
I have cystic fibrosis, and I get bad lung infections. So she was probably learning how to flush the lungs and do the antibiotics correctly.
Cassandra was in the hospital over there for at least 6 months. They didn't expect her to live. Crystal was a nurse. She took care of her, and Crystal was right there by her side. She would not leave her. She loved that baby so much.
Crystal was always friendly and loving, and I didn't show favoritism to any of my kids. I treated them all the same. But for some reason, she's just one of my favorites.
You're not supposed to take it personal. This is someone, this was a hometown girl. Everybody knew Bill, they knew Crystal, they knew Stephanie.
Now a new tragedy has struck this already grieving family. As difficult as it is to approach Crystal's mother, Officer Angel Garcia knows she may have information that can lead him to Crystal's killer.
Can you think of anyone who might have wanted to harm Crystal?
And the only person who might have wished her ill was her ex-husband.
They were fighting for custody of Cassandra. He was very abusive, cussing her out, threatening her that they were going to take the baby away from her.
Do you know where her daughter is now?
She's with him. He came into town Thursday. That's the last time I saw Crystal.
Due to the circumstances and him filing for custody of their child, he was a person of interest, and other than signs of what we seen to do the law, there was no other signs of forced entry. So it was somebody that she knew. It was somebody that she allowed to come inside her house.
His address.
If it was a boyfriend or an ex-boyfriend, you're trying to do an exclusionary and see if they have an alibi. Were they there? Were they fighting? How were they getting along? Most of the time, the murderer is someone that victim knows.
But before speaking with Crystal's out-of-town ex-husband, Socorro police start their investigation right here.
There was a lot of what things aren't at the scene right now. Where's her car? Who has her car?
We sent a bolo out for Crystal's car, teal green and colored Honda Civic 2-door.
It's not until they start canvassing Crystal's neighborhood that the reality of her murder sinks in.
I'd seen other homicides in my patrol, but this is one of the cases that I wanted to make sure it was done right. I was born and raised here. I literally lived growing up across the street from where this occurred.
Someone out there is going to give you information. And the one blessing that we had with this case was that Angel knew everybody, and everybody was willing to talk to him.
Hey, Angel, what's up?
I don't know if you've heard, but Crystal Houston has been murdered.
What?
Yeah.
She and my son Jason just started dating.
Maggie advised me that Jason had been with her for a very short period of time, approximately 8 days. But her son was not in town and was out of town on a hunting trip.
He said that she might go with him to Snow Lake this weekend.
Clearly, plans have changed, and hopefully, Jason can explain why. "75 miles due south of Albuquerque, the 9,000-person city of Socorro, New Mexico, lies nestled along the banks of the majestic Rio Grande.
We're in the center of New Mexico, and we're a high desert plateau. We're at 4,800 feet, so, we're almost a mile high.
Like many western towns, farms and cattle ranches dominate the landscape. But Socorro's high elevation also has the most unusual set of landmarks in its backyard. 27 radio telescopes.
If anybody saw the movie Contact, they filmed that out here with those big dishes, getting radio waves from outer space. They find nebulas and black holes and things like that.
But in April 2001, the earthy streets of Socorro harbor a deadly secret as well. Who is responsible for the rape and murder of 24-year-old single mother Crystal Houston?
After Crystal's death, there was a lot of speculation. In a small town, if somebody dies, it puts everybody at edge.
There were several people talking about the case, and they're pretty much in disbelief.
2 hours after Crystal's murder was discovered, police bring in their first person of interest, her new boyfriend, Jason Martin.
Let's start with the last time you saw Crystal.
Thursday night.
Jason told us that they had went to the river fishing. She started drinking and was highly intoxicated and was wanting to drive.
So I took her keys and she was really upset about it.
He said he went to his mom's, who lived next door, and stood at his mom's to give her some time to calm down. And when he went back, she was still upset with him. He then left the area and went to town.
With Crystal's car missing, Jason has just confessed to having taken a set of her keys. What he tells detectives next compounds their suspicions.
Jason also stated that when he went to town, as he was coming back, he had seen a vehicle at the residence. He described the vehicle as a brown Ford single cab truck.
Okay, so then what did you do?
I parked my car across the street so they wouldn't see me and I watched them.
He stated that he believed that Crystal and 2 other males left in that vehicle.
Did you recognize these 2 guys?
No idea who they were.
We thought it was very strange. He never gave a particular reason of why he would just stop and watch her instead of going over there and talk to her.
Jason continues with another claim. He says he stopped by Crystal's house the next day to check on her.
We were supposed to go on a hunting trip together, and when I drove over to her house and noticed her car wasn't parked in the driveway, I figured she was still mad at me and then she had just gone off somewhere.
He had spent the day trying to look for her before they left. In fact, he left a note on her door.
No such note was recovered at the scene.
Not being in town, coming back, to have an argument, admitting of having an argument before he left. Yeah, it was suspicious.
Yet without any physical evidence tying Jason to the murder, Garcia is forced to release him. But before he leaves, he agrees to provide a DNA sample. Investigators turn their attention to Crystal's ex-husband, Hector Calderella, who received notification of his ex-wife's passing less than 24 hours ago.
There was a custody issue over the child. He wanted custody, and Crystal wanted custody, so there was some heated emotions going back and forth over that issue.
Was their fight heated enough to end in murder?
How can I help you? We're here to talk to you about your ex-wife, Crystal Houston. All right. Come on in.
When was the last time you seen Crystal?
Thursday. He stated that there was an exchange of their child in Socorro. And can you tell me exactly where and what time that was?
In the Mini Mart parking lot, just off the freeway exit. It's around 5. I was picking up Cassie.
Hector's account fits with Jason's timeline. But that doesn't mean Hector didn't return to Crystal's house later that evening. Could Crystal's ex have been one of the men Jason saw in the brown Ford truck?
When asked if he knew where Crystal lived, he stated no, that she had just recently moved and had not been to her residence.
You didn't see Crystal after you left with Cassandra, correct? On Thursday?
No.
The detectives aren't fully convinced.
It's a possibility that he had a motive wanting full custody of the baby.
We didn't know if that type of heated discussions would arise to him essentially murdering her and taking her out of the picture.
I think the best way for me to prove your innocence is to provide some DNA sample. Yeah, I can do that. There's someone here who wants to speak with you.
Who's that?
Bill Houston.
Crystal's father, Bill Houston, is a man who needs no introduction. He worked tirelessly with the police after his other daughter Stephanie's death, making himself a familiar face at the station.
It took a while to soak in. Right away, I thought what happened, you know. And so then they started calling it a homicide. So I went to the police department.
It's very common when you have a violent death that the family's going to be coming forward.
Bill's determined to assist police in finding Crystal's killer.
I'm so sorry for your loss.
We're going to do everything we can. You know that.
I know you will, and I'm going to make it easy for you.
How's that?
Because I know who killed Crystal.
He was a conniver, you know, and he knew how to cover things up. And I told him, you murdered my daughter.
"48 hours into the sexual assault and murder investigation of 24-year-old single mother Crystal Houston, police in Socorro, New Mexico, attempt to sift grains of fact through a sieve overflowing with neighborhood gossip.
There's a lot of speculation. The area where this happened to her, there were many other people around in that area that perhaps could have been suspect. Some of the people that she hung out with, I believe, came forward and were trying to give us information too. Some of it was good information, but a lot of it was hearsay.
The harrowing crime was discovered by the victim's own mother when she and a neighbor, Ted Soto, forced their way into Crystal's home. Now, Crystal's father is making a damning accusation.
It was Ted. Ted Soto, her neighbor.
Mr. Houston, he thought that we needed to speak to Ted. He was concerned about some time that Ted was spending with Crystal. He was an older gentleman and was a neighbor of hers and thought it was just a little creepy.
I said, you don't want to mess with me. You're fooling other people. You fool her, but you don't fool me.
I'm telling you, Angel, you got to check this fella out. There's something's just not right about him.
Is that based on a general impression, or is it something more specific?
Just about the way he acted and everything, the things he did that day, he already knew it when he opened the door.
What was their relationship like? He was always going over there checking in on Crystal, seeing how she and Cassie were doing.
Why are you going over there to check on her? She don't need no checking on. And why was he going over there?
Who killed Crystal?
She had told me and she had told my son Billy, says, I don't want to ever see this guy again. I don't want to ever talk to him again.
We'll go pay Ted a visit. Thanks for coming in.
He was really distraught. You know, I have two daughters, and when you start talking about daughters dying suddenly, and I can never imagine what Bill went through, losing both his daughters in such a violent way.
It's not uncommon for killers to stage the discovery of their victim. The ruse enables them to observe the initial investigation, but more importantly, it provides a handy explanation should forensics find traces of their presence at the site.
He had picked the door. He used a butter knife to pick the door open, and it raised some suspicion.
I assume you're here to talk about Crystal. That's right. Let's start by how well you knew her.
Friendly? Neighborly?
Word is you were keeping tabs on her.
During the interview, Ted raised some concerns about some of Crystal's friends. He didn't think they were good for her.
That guy she was seeing? Jason? He was always yelling at her.
Ted did state that his concern was about Jason and that we need to re-interview him.
Let me show you something.
It's the note from Jason to Crystal, corroborating a missing piece from his story. But why does Ted have it?
This note, the boyfriend placed at the door Friday, I believe. Was an explanation here, so this one all day you apparently got in a fight. So I got the note. I read it. I didn't know she was in there yet. I glanced at it. I just put it back in my pocket. Okay.
It was concerning that Ted was naming suspects and who he thought we needed to speak to, and him being up in age, maybe he had a thing for Crystal. With these concerns that we had in reference to Ted, we also asked Ted to take a sexual assault kit.
Is it really necessary?
It is if you want to clear your name.
We explained to him process of elimination is one of the steps is for him to take the sexual assault kit.
Ted agreed. With arrangements to get him to the station made, Garcia and Romero wonder if they are finally on the right path.
Garcia? Okay, we'll be right there.
The autopsy did come back on Crystal Houston.
Okay, so what are we looking at?
It was blunt force trauma to the head. I can also confirm she was sexually assaulted.
The news is no surprise to detectives who witnessed the body at the crime scene. However, the lab's toxicology analysis reveals important new information.
The autopsy report revealed that there was drugs and alcohol found in her system.
How about foreign DNA? Were you able to pull anything?
We're still waiting for the DNA results to come back.
Keep us posted.
After Stephanie died, my mom went off the deep end, gone partying, hanging out with people she wasn't supposed to be hanging out with.
It even made her a little mentally ill. And normally I don't think she would have been hanging out with that trash that she was hanging out with.
Crystal's struggles lead her to uncover a dark side to this sunny, high desert town, one that most folks wish would stay hidden.
For the last 20 years or so, the community has been affected with a lot of drug use and so on, and that's infected a lot of the young people there.
But Crystal's quest to ease her pain had led to her own death. To find out, investigators plunge into Socorro's underworld. gonna need a search warrant to get any closer to my truck.
We don't want to search your truck, Manny. We want to talk. We deal with Manny quite frequently. Manny is known to us as a individual of interest for the purpose of narcotics and the sales of narcotics.
He was, I don't want to say a big drug supplier, but he knew everybody, and he knew how to get it and how to get rid of it.
I want to ask you about Crystal Houston. You knew her?
Yeah, I know her. Why are you asking?
But she was killed the other night.
Manny's residence is a known place where individuals go to purchase narcotics and to hang out and drink beer.
If she was hanging out with anyone that used illegal drugs, he would either be supplying or know of what people she's hanging out with. What? As long as you treated him with respect, he would treat you back the same way. And a lot of times we were able to get a lot of information that way because we didn't talk down to a lot of the suspects or a lot of the people that were involved in this case.
When was the last time you saw her? I don't know, early Friday maybe? Well, that was about when she was killed. Well, look, I didn't even talk to her when she came over.
No? Who did she come with?
AB. She was with AB and another guy. I don't know his name.
What's AB's last name?
Chavez. AB Chavez. They came with some stuff to sell. They had a cooler full of beer and a TV. Detectives feel the click of a puzzle piece snapping into place.
With the TV being gone, that was one of the things that we were looking at.
Knowing that Crystal was in on the sale of her own TV makes it far less likely her murder will be tied to a robbery.
While interviewing him, Glenn asked Manny if he still had the TV. He did, and we took those as evidence. I'm going to need someone to pick up a man by the name of A.B. Chavez.
By the way, what were they driving?
Some type of single cab brown truck. Investigators immediately get to work tracking AB down.
We located AB and had him come to the office for an interview. Amy seemed very, very nervous.
Did you ever happen to come in contact with an individual by the name of Crystal Houston?
Yeah.
In the spring of 2001, Socorro detectives are locked in on a case that has the attention of everyone in their tight-knit New Mexico town. And their latest clue in the murder of 24-year-old Crystal Houston comes from the most unlikely source. A local drug dealer who claims to have seen her with two men, including A.B. Chavez.
Baby, we just need to know your whereabouts for Thursday night.
I was just hanging out with a few friends.
Friends? We heard you were hanging out with Manny.
Yeah.
Who else was with you and Crystal Houston that night?
You mean Ramon?
Ramon who?
Lopez? What's this about?
Said he had seen ambulances and officers at Crystal Houston's house and was wondering if she was okay because she was like a family member to him.
Crystal's dead.
Though news of Crystal's death comes as a shock to AB, he takes no issue with Manny's account of events leading up to the murder.
We already knew that he'd gotten in the car with Crystal and Ramon at Manny's house and had left with them in the vehicle after selling the TV.
We went to Manny's house and scored. Then we left and went back to Crystal's place.
He did admit of them all using narcotics together and admitted of consuming alcohol at the residence.
Like I said, basically I was minding my own business. What I seen was Ramon rubbing her arm, and I left. When I left, it was him and her that were left alone.
And when you left, did you at any time see any advances by Crystal?
Never, not once. I've never seen Crystal not once given any reason to believe that she was interested in having sex with anything.
Aby's tidy account has him leaving Crystal's house before she was killed. For detectives, the story seems a little too tidy.
He's not eliminated as a suspect as well. We asked him to also perform a sexual assault kit. First, he questioned it because he stated that he felt that Crystal was like his sister. He said he wouldn't do that kind of stuff with a family member. And that's one of the reasons we told him that's why we need it. That's why we need that DNA to make sure that you weren't part of the process of sexual assaulting this girl.
Investigators consider that if Aby can be trusted, his story contains a critical development in the case.
It places Ramon Lopez as one of the last persons that anybody seen Crystal with.
Police are grateful for what could be a breakthrough lead, but with such a small community, the name Ramon Lopez strikes uncomfortably close to home.
When we say this is a small town and everybody knows everybody, I knew Ramon since he was 8 years old. I know his mother. Okay, his mother and I were good friends.
I've known Ramon since I was a child, known his family, known his mom, known his brother. Ramon was like any other kid growing up. Like me, like anybody, any of our other friends. The kid I used to play with, the kid I knew from baseball.
Now, Detective Garcia's childhood friend has to answer to the murder of Crystal Houston.
Ramon has many members of family in this community, so we attempt to locate him at family members' houses.
Where's your son, Ramon?
No one has seen Ramon since the night of the murder over a week ago. With Crystal's car still missing, police double down on their search for the vehicle, feeling it may lead them to Ramon.
At that point, we were canvassing the town, trying to find the car, trying to find him.
Meanwhile, Crystal's family is reeling from the loss of their daughter and the brutality of the crime. Pressure to solve the case could not be more intense.
I was having like panic attacks bad. Just the thoughts of it being my daughter and laying in there dead. It was really hard.
She'd go to the cemetery up here, cry every day about her sister, and then she ended up there.
It was a feeling of frustration. As much work as we put into this case, Mr. Houston and Joyce, I couldn't imagine what they go through.
And persons that do stuff like that, they're gonna pay. The karma comes. Karma means they're coming to get you for what you did.
By April 28th, a week and a half after Aby's interview, the major breakthrough feels like a distant memory. But sometimes there are lucky breaks.
I was sitting at home watching news and I seen a story of a carjacking in Albuquerque. A photo pops up of an individual. They stated that the individual on the picture was Jaime Alvarado, who I know to be Ramon Lopez's brother.
However, Garcia recognizes something strange about the photo.
That's not Jaime. I immediately jump off the couch. That's Ramon. That's Ramon.
"16 days after the murder of Crystal Houston, Socorro detective Angel Garcia is taken off guard by a breaking news story out of Albuquerque. Across his TV screen flashes the picture of an alleged carjacker. Though the name doesn't match, it's a face Garcia knows well.
So many things are going to my mind because he's using a different person's name. So right off the bat, I said, he's hiding something. He's hiding from something. He's hiding from this case. I then call Albuquerque Police Department, advise them that the individual that they have is Ramon Lopez and not Jaime Alvarado.
So then the detectives got a hold of the Bernalillo County Detention Center and let him know that he was actually a murder suspect and that he had given them false information.
So we ran his prints, and it's definitely Ramon Lopez.
What the Albuquerque detective reveals next assures Garcia his investigation is on the right track.
Yeah, Crystal's car.
Ramon was actually caught with a car in Albuquerque. He was trying to ditch and steal another car at that point.
Wait, we'll want to search that car, but first I want to speak to Ramon.
It was the same Ramon I knew when I was growing up.
I'm here to talk about Crystal Houston.
I read him his rights. He refused to speak to me.
I got nothing to say.
Despite his silence, Ramon's arrest empowers detectives to obtain a sample of his DNA. They also scour Crystal's car for any physical proof to place Ramon at the scene of the crime.
Oh, we can use that.
They had fingerprints from a can that they had found inside the car.
There was some hair that was located. They took some soil from the carpet.
New discoveries aside, investigators still need to tie Ramon directly to the assault, and that is going to take DNA results.
I think there was 11 people that we had DNA done on.
Finally, on May 9th, the full battery of lab results arrive at police headquarters.
Out of everybody that was a suspect, and we had complete sexual assault kits, Ramon's DNA was the only DNA that we found on Crystal Houston.
And that was pretty much the nail in the coffin after that.
Nearly 4 years to the day of Crystal Houston's murder, Ramon finishes serving his time for the carjacking attempt. Detective Garcia immediately transports him to Socorro to face murder charges.
During the trip back from prison to Socorro, he would fluctuate. He was nervous. He showed anger.
In July 2007, Ramon Lopez is convicted of the combined charges of felony murder, second-degree murder, kidnapping, criminal sexual assault, theft of a motor vehicle, and tampering with evidence. He is sentenced to life with the possibility of parole in the year 2035.
Ramon never showed any type of remorse to the family. Ramon was, through the trial, I believe, in my eyes, thinking he was going to get away with this.
Ramon's conviction is a triumph for Socorro PD. But for Crystal's family, a sense of closure remains beyond reach.
He took my mother from me, something that was very valuable, someone that I needed. There feels empty inside, not having a mother there, to guide you and help you and be there for you when you need her the most.
I say Ramon Lopez is a coward. He took my daughter, And not only that, he took my granddaughter's mother.
Whatever comfort seeing this killer incarcerated does give the community, it evaporates when, due to a technicality, in 2011, Ramon Lopez has his sentence reduced to just 15 years and is released on parole in October 2015.
Ramon got a retrial by trying to suppress some of the evidence that was used against him by the pathologist. on the case, who was then deceased. After the second trial, Ramon was admitted back to the state penitentiary and was released. Soon after Ramon was released, he was then incarcerated again for domestic violence.
What I had told the judge, I said, this guy gets out of prison, he'll be back. Well, sure enough, he's back. But when he gets out this time, he'll kill somebody again.
I want justice for Crystal, and I want her to have peace. But for somebody to do what they've done, I think they should stay in jail for the rest of their life.
When Ramon does get out, is there always a fear in back of my mind that he will attempt to retaliate because of what he's done? Absolutely. But I have a family to protect and will do so.
Oh, I miss her giggle, her laugh. I remember like she was. Everybody liked her. She was a good kid.